Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel, and today we'll be looking at a few characters from the Mandalorian TV series. Now I know it's been out for a while and I have had my figures for quite a while, but I've never really put them on camera before except for the Mandalorian himself, which you would have seen recently, my new upgrade. So we're going to start with these two first. So we'll come to the right first and you'll see this character, which is known as the Armorer, and she serves as a person who is like a mentor to the Mandalorian, and she also forges the armor for all the Mandalorians. But those forging tools she has in her hand, she can actually use them for combat. And all the Mandalorians you're going to see today varied between £5 and £15, and I know this figure was about £7. As normal, these sort of figures are about 28 quid, but my guy who likes to wait for a bargain, and so I'm very pleased with the ones you're going to see on camera today because they were all bargains. And I love this figure, and as the series Mandalorian has progressed, this figure has become more and more a significant character in the plots and storylines. So that is the Armorer. So we're going to come over now to this figure, and when I bought it I actually thought the character's name was Bo-Kreese Katan or something like that, but I got her mixed up with someone else. So she's from the Night Owl Squadron, and she comes with two pistols even though she's only got one holster. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that helmet and I'm going to change the pose out of both the figures. And before we crack on, I'm just showing you those jetpacks because I said recently when I was posing my Boba Fett and Mandalorian and Jango Fett, I didn't think these two holes that you can see on the jetpack could facilitate the energy effects, but I was wrong. So let's move on to the first pose with these two figures. I like them a lot. So first we'll come to the Armorer. I've got her to put down one of her forging tools, and I've put a pistol in her hand. And you may have heard a siren outside the building. I'm afraid that's a regular occurrence around these parts, so I apologise for that. But that's the pose I put her in, and I quite like her. And I think it is possible to get a jetpack on her back because she did wear one in the later seasons of The Mandalorian, and I do like the way she comes across on camera. And then we'll come over to this Night Owl, and that's her head sculpt. And what I'm finding with a lot of the Black Series figures, they can now come up with not just the helmet, but you can put the helmets over the head sculpts, and you can just about make out the jetpack, which is on the back there. And I'm liking the way them two look together because these are the only two female figures from the Mandalorian world I have in my collection. But I've noticed in my local toy outlet they are dropping down in price, so I'll probably pick up a few more and get them on camera. So let's carry on with the next lot of posing. Stay tuned. So when I got this guy, I wasn't quite sure what he was all about until I watched the first season of The Mandalorian, and he's known as Death Watch Mandalorian. I thought it was something sinister, but it wasn't, because Din Djarin, I don't know if I pronounced his name correctly, has a flashback to his childhood in which a squadron of these guys turn up on his home planet to rescue them from an attack, and these guys take him back to Mandalore where he is trained as a Mandalorian. So I really like him, so I'm going to pose him one more time because I want to show you him with his sidearm, which you can't quite make out on film. But I'll come around the side and see if I can get it. You can just about see it. So I'll pose him in a different position so you can see what it looks like. and I've kept the armour on because I do like the figure, and it gives me a chance to get round the back there where you see that kind of animal skin which is on the back of the figure. And in terms of likeness to the characters, these figures aren't bad, which is why I like them so much. So let's get Death Watch Mandalorian posed out. So here he is with the sidearm in his hand and the pulse rifle in the other, and I've pulled down the targeting visor, which most of these Mandalorians have, and I like his dynamics. I've had him on the one knee pose, really like him, never get bored of him. And if you were a big fan of the show, you could pick up about 10 or 15 of these guys and simulate the time when he arrived on Din Djarin's planet, aka the Mandalorian, to rescue the population from attack. And he's a nice looking figure. And armourer, slightly changed on the pose, but I'm going to take her off the platform now and bring in some new characters. Here we go. So I brought back one of my other Mandalorians. Obviously, a couple of days ago you would see a review on the channel of my upgraded Mandalorian, in which he's got a cloth cape. And obviously this is the one with the moulded cape. I've got another one you'll see on camera today. But I needed to pose him next to this guy, Quill. And in the first season you do see him. And he helps out Mandalorian a lot when his ship, Razor Quest, is dismantled by Jawas. And he helps negotiate a deal to get the parts back to rebuild his vessel. And this guy, his character was voiced by an actor called Nick Nolte. And if you know anything about that guy, you know he's a great actor. You may remember him in the first Hulk movie, in which he played Bruce Banner's father. But Nick Nolte is a well-respected and established actor, and Quill was quite a significant friend to the Mandalorian in the first season. And I'll just show you Mandalorian there in one of my Mandalorian poses, which I like. But I'm going to take him off the platform now and bring on the next two. So here we have another one of my Mandalorian figures, and you've seen this one on the channel. I call him the blue variant, and I've got him in a pulse rifle pose. You do see him do this in the series, and I quite like the way he looks on camera. All of my Mandalorians already can do these sort of poses, but let's concentrate on this guy. And I became aware of him as a kid back in the day when Carl Weathers, who this is, played Apollo Creed in the Rocky movies. He also made an appearance in that first classic Predator movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I always get his character's name wrong in Mandalorian. I think it's called Greer Gargan. And I've posed him out with a jetpack in his hand. But that's a trigger hand, so you can put another weapon there, but I decided to put that jetpack. But what I liked about him, and I do remember his price, 28 quid is the price of these figures normally, but he was in a gaming shop that was closing down, and they were selling them off for $7.99, so you can't complain. So that's Greer Gargan, I think, and he's the guy who initially hires Mandalorian to retrieve Grogu. So let's bring on the next lot. Let's pull it back a bit. There, that's better. So last but not least, I brought back Mandalorian again, this one, because I think these two look great together. And as you know, this character is called Paz Vizsla, and he was the retail price he normally comes at for the longest time. And then one day, just by off chance, I decided to go into the toy outlet, and he dropped down to I think it was $11.99, but what I've done is, as I've done before, I've taken off a blast effect off one of my Marvel figures and put it on that gun to create the effect, and I think that works quite well, that. And I've done it with the other jetpacks, this blast effect, but I'm going to pose him this way. But before I get him off camera, I'm going to show you him holding the weapon he's associated with in the series, which you can see attached to the back of the figure. And at first this guy did not like the Mandalorian, but over the course of time they came to respect each other and take on a mutual enemy, because that is the way. So let's pose him out with that laser cannon on his back. So here he is. I'll put him on the other side of the platform so I can get a better angle shot, and I love this figure. Apart from my Mandalorian and all the other figures, this is my second favourite character. Unfortunately, he was killed off in the last season, which is a shame, but he left behind a son, and the other Mandalorians swore to bring him up and protect him. And we'll come around the other side, see if we can get a bit of that jetpack. But what I'll do is I'll get him on the one knee pose, just to show you how articulate he is, and that's a close-up. And I really do like that figure. My second favourite outside of Mandalorian. My third favourite being the Armourer. So let's get them on the one knee pose. In fact, let's get them both on the one knee pose. So there they are. And it's great that you can get this kind of dynamic with these sort of figures. It lifts the level of the figure and the quality. And there's movement there. And you can imagine that when these two were fighting together, this is the sort of thing they would be doing. I just want to try one more because I do like this guy, and I want to show him with that blast effect once more, just to wind things up. Okay, here we go. Let's put the laser cannon back on the back of the figure and put on that blast effect. So what I've done now, I've decided to put these guys all on the platform except for the blue variant of Mandalorian. I will go to the front row first and show you what they look like. And of course, I'm happy to have my new Mandalorian with the cloth cape, but I do love having this figure and the blue variant of him. And then we've got Night Owl there, close up. You can see some battle damage. She came with 2 pistols, but there isn't a second holster, so as you can see, I've given that pistol over to the Armourer. And then we've got Quill at the front there, and that's a nice figure. And you can take that hat off, and he's got some hair under there, but I won't show you that. And then we've got Death Watch Mandalorian behind. So what I'll do is I'm gonna get these guys on separate platforms because it's looking a little bit crowded, and leave it there. So let's take it to the last pose out with these guys. So that's it then, guys. That's a complete look at all these characters today on the channel. I'll come in to platform 1 first, and there you'll see Quill and the jetpacks you would have seen on camera, and Death Watch Mandalorian. I like him. And there's a few out there now dropping in price, so I'd have to go back and watch the series again to see if I really want them. But at the end of the day, if they're going to be a bargain, I can't turn it down. But I do like the series, and I'm looking forward to the film that's coming out. as I said in the past, my reservation about turning great TV series into, we're now on platform 2, yeah, turning great TV series into movies is that I don't know if they can keep that quality all the way through. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm going to watch it because I've enjoyed all the series and seasons. And then you'll see at the back there, Night Owl with a targeting visor up, and Greer Gagan. Incidentally, I do miss Carl Weathers because he was in one of my other favourite films, Happy Gilmore, Adam Sandler, as a mentor to Adam Sandler's character. And he has a wooden hand, and if you haven't watched it, it's in my collection. You're gonna kill yourself laughing. It's so funny. I never get tired of it, and that film must be over 20 years old, maybe more. But enough about the late great Carl Weathers. We are coming to the end now of this review, and I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. And I've been covering quite a few Star Wars figures and Star Wars related figures lately. There's a couple of more in my collection, and I won't go to them just yet, but at some point I'll be looking at Cassian Andor and Jane Erso from the best Star Wars film outside of the Star Wars franchise, Rogue One. And I'll come in close on these guys and say thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.